What's up, everyone? Welcome to a post-Mythic Weekend edition of Mythic Conversations. As always, I am your host, Sir Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer, and I have the distinct privilege of being the digital marketing manager for Four Horsemen Studios. And of course, if you hung out with us this weekend, I got to play host all weekend, especially at LegionsCon 2021, along with Four Horsemen Studios and my partner, Joseph Viteri, Lord Viteris himself, my partner in LegionsCon, Legion Shop. It's the two of us that have helped put that together along with the studio. Tonight's show, we are going to try to recap the absolutely incredible weekend that the Legions community just experienced. I have a ton of thoughts. I have a ton of stories to share. And on top of all this, right, we've got a brand new wave, Mythic Legions Poxxus, to review as well. There's so much to cover. I want to get right into it. But of course, it wouldn't be right to jump right into the recap without acknowledging the absolutely tragic and heartbreaking loss that the Legions community suffered this week. I am, of course, speaking about the death of Justin Johnson. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this already. It would be disingenuous for me to say that I knew Justin well. I certainly did not know him well. I knew him. He was a massive dwarf lover, as I'm sure you know. I certainly sold him many dwarf parts through Legion Shop. I had a number of conversations with him over the years. He used to check out the show regularly, and I would see him in the chat. So I knew who Justin was, but to say that I had made a super strong connection with him would be false. Certainly not the kind of connection that my friends like Anthony Hausiel had made, and certainly Eddie Salvatore. He had some very close friends. Kevin Dufresne, some very close friends. William. I could just keep going on because he made a lot of very close friends in the Cabal and the Mythic Legions community. He was always an enjoyable person to speak with, always a pleasure, and always an incredible backer of the Mythic Legions line. He was also slated to come to Mythic Weekend this past weekend. He was supposed to be part of Intern for a day, supposed to be part of LegionsCon. I said that I didn't know him well. This is a missed opportunity there because there's a lot of people this weekend that I didn't know well that I connected with in a really meaningful way this weekend, and I'll talk more about that. But I would have loved to be able to do that with Justin, and unfortunately, he succumbed to COVID-19 this week. He's the second person in the Mythic community that I've had to talk about at the start of a show losing their life to COVID. The first being the Brazilian artist Robson Roca. I'm sure there are others that I'm not aware of that have lost that battle as well, but those are two that I personally interacted with. There's definitely a lot of people now that are trying to do what they can to honor Justin's memory, to help Justin's family. He does leave behind a wife and 3 young kids. My thoughts and all of our thoughts go out to them, as do our actions. There's a lot of things being worked on now to try to do what can happen to provide some kind of support for them at a time when I can't even imagine what they're going through. So I just wanted to start the show by, acknowledging his passing and, just like I said, acknowledging that this community has lost a wonderful human being and an incredible supporter. all of us should take that to heart, that, we never know how much time we have. So let's enjoy the time we have together and look out for each other. And that's certainly a big part of what this weekend was about. And I see a lot of people asking if there's a link to help out, to post, to help out. There certainly is. I know that in the Mythic Legions cabal, Eddie Salvatore, who again was a very close friend of Justin's, he has posted some stuff about some ways that they're trying to raise money. I know there's a number of customizers that are lending their talents and parts and so forth to try to create some cool things that they're hoping to raffle off to raise some money as well. Again, I'm certainly not the person to lead something like that because I wasn't as close to Justin as they are. I've offered to lend my help in any way that I can, but certainly Eddie is someone who I know is spearheading it. I believe Zombie 13, Anthony Houseal, they are all doing stuff. So if you're in the Mythic Legions cabal, which I know a lot of you are, there will certainly be some information there about how you can help his family should you choose to do so. Okay, so let's look at some of the comments here. So obviously a lot of people starting with welcoming me, talking about my theme music, and then clearly talking about condolences to Justin. Let's see. So Greg T saying Intern for a day was awesome, and the toy show along with LegionsCon was mind blowing. Jeremy, thank you for so much you do. This was a great week. You are very welcome, Greg. We'll talk all about the week that we had there. Visionary got his wizard. So Visionary is someone that has been banging that drum, or maybe I should say knocking on that spell book since the very beginning. I mean, I can remember Visionary is a long time Four Horsemen supporter, long time Mythic Legion supporter. I mean, before Mythic Legions was around on the old forums, along with Zombie and myself and, Iz and a number of others. But obviously, right from the get-go, when Mythic Legions 1 got released, one of the loudest requests, one of the biggest, I would say, missing pieces of Mythic Legions from those earliest days was kind of classic robed wizards, Gandalf style wizards, if you will. That we had magic users, but they were always wearing armor and stuff like that. Jaren Runeshaper in the first wave is a magic user, but he's wearing like full plate armor, which, it's a dwarf. You can maybe get away with that. But it was really, really cool to finally see the introduction of those robed wizards. I know Visionary was super, super happy. I'll talk more about the Poxxus wave probably towards the end, because there's a lot of other stuff I want to do before we get there. And I could probably spend the entire show just talking about my reactions to the Poxxus wave. Yeah, Ryan saying, what an amazing show. I didn't want it to end. That's kind of, for me in a big way, kind of the story of the entire weekend. So much of what happened, I stayed up so late. So I'm a super early riser, right? If you follow my Instagram, you know that I often post at like 5:30 in the morning. I'm someone that gets up really, really early. To be honest with you, this night's show is probably the latest I generally stay up. This show runs until 9, and after I have to unpack and do what I do. Most nights I'm in bed by 9, 10 o'clock the latest, because I wake up so early. All this past weekend, I was up till 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Still had to get up at like 5 to do what needed to get done. But I was up super, super late, exactly for what you just said, Ryan. I didn't want it to end. I didn't want the conversations to end. I didn't want the experience to end. It was that cool. We'll talk more about that as we go. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Yes, everyone's saying they're happy they're getting their wizards. And yes, that is a grandpa schedule. It's also the schedule of someone that puts in a lot of hours. So Star, new to this, how many series go on pre-order before the first series actually gets released? It depends. It really depends on what's going on in the factory and what delays are. The Alithia wave was originally slated to be probably out by now, but there's been some delays on that with the tooling and stuff. So that got pushed back a little bit. So it really depends. In the past, there's usually a couple series that have been pre-ordered before they start shipping. Obviously, All Stars 4 is shipping now, and as we get into the new year, we'll probably start seeing some of these other waves ship as well. Okay, so let's talk about this weekend. So it's a little backstory. Mythic Weekend started last year. LegionsCon 2020, G-Con Alithia. That's really what created Mythic Weekend, because G-Con has happened, this was the fourth G-Con. So it happened on its own for a couple of years, and it happened during the summertime. LegionsCon, the first ever LegionsCon, happened 2 years ago in 2019, and it happened in November after ToyCon. They were two totally separate things. And it's interesting because at ToyCon, at ToyCon and LegionsCon 2019, that first one, when Joe and I put that together, it was really, we kind of thought it was a meetup. Originally, we had called it Mythic Meetup. That was the original name we were toying around, and then we landed on LegionsCon. And we really did imagine it as just a meetup of like-minded fans. We thought we'd get like a dozen people hanging out and showing customs. So when we had close to 100 people show up and people flying in, Walter flew in from California, Nikki flew in from Colorado, Dennis flew in. It was crazy the amount of people that traveled to be at the event. It really surprised us, because after the event, we heard people talking about what an incredible experience they had. And Joe and I were like, we didn't really do anything. Like, it was an after party. ToyCon ran from 9 to 5. We did LegionsCon from 5 to 8. There were a handful of vendors in a very small room, and we kind of leaked out into the hallway outside. There wasn't much going on, but people really enjoyed being there. They enjoyed meeting each other, hanging out, and talking Legions. So we had really big plans for 2020 for the follow-up. Of course, that got squashed by COVID. So we went fully virtual last year, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, by all measures, we had a good year last year. People enjoyed the broadcast. We did a bunch of panel discussions. We were able to bring in a bunch of fellow artists and creators and fans to talk Legions. But looking at this year, in last year, the reason we combined it together was because of all delays from COVID. G-Con, which is normally a summer event, got pushed and pushed and pushed to the point that it made sense to do them together. So G-Con has always been a virtual broadcast. We did that on the Friday. We did virtual LegionsCon on the Saturday. So looking at this year, it was all the way back in like March that we started talking to the guys, the studio. And we were like, Joe and myself were like, what do we want to do this year? Because after the pairing last year, the guys kind of said, yeah, let's move G-Con from a summer event to a fall event and pair it with LegionsCon. That makes a lot of sense. So we started talking, and we said, well, this year we don't want LegionsCon to be an after party. We want LegionsCon to be its own thing, its own full day event. So we said, hey, it'd be really cool if we did G-Con on the Friday, like they always do. ToyCon New Jersey, which is a really great toy show that Joe runs as well. We can do that on the Saturday and the Sunday, and then on the Sunday we can also run LegionsCon concurrently to ToyCon. So the idea was that a lot of the exhibitors and fans could hang out at ToyCon on Saturday. They'd be able to mingle without like having to worry about their displays and their booths and selling and all that. And then Sunday would be the big day. And then, of course, earlier this year, there was the Mythic Legions Tactics War of the Aetherblade crowdfunding campaign, and one of the rewards on that was the Intern for a Day experience. And a number of people decided, you know what, I want that experience. But when they first offered it, there was no date selected, right? Because when that first private crowdfunding campaign happened, we were still pretty deep in the midst of COVID, and they weren't sure when it was going to be safe to actually gather people at the studio in person. So it was an open-ended date. They didn't know when they were going to do it. Well, as we started talking about Mythic Weekend, the idea was pitched that, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did intern for a day on the Thursday? So people would come in, they'd already be able to be in town. They could be there for the Mythic Weekend, for LegionsCon and everything. We thought that was a really cool idea. And it really made this 4-day experience of intern for a day on a Thursday, G-Con broadcast on Friday, ToyCon Day 1 on Saturday, and then along with ToyCon Day 2 on Sunday, the culmination of this in LegionsCon. So that's really how everything came together. And having been, core and critical to the planning of this, I am comfortable telling you that, oh my goodness, did it go so much better than we expected. Like, there were so many unexpected surprises this weekend that just like last year, circumstance forced G-Con and LegionsCon to be together, and it created this awesome experience. This year, the fact that we had to do an intern for a day and everything just worked out, we had so much fun that talking at the studio, we were like, we're doing this every year. Like, intern for a day has never been a regular thing. They've done it a couple times, but we had such a good experience that the idea of doing an intern for a day, a G-Con that includes the interns, we'll talk about that in a minute, intern for a day, G-Con, and then, as you're going to find out, we're getting ready to announce 2022 information, but I can tell you right now that the one thing that is going to change for 2022 is it will not be tied in with ToyCon anymore. ToyCon is an awesome event, incredible experience. I encourage you to go do it. But at the end of the day, we need more time. We need more room. LegionsCon 2022 will be its totally own event, 2 full days with a lot of stuff to do. This year, it was just pretty much a toy show meets art exhibit. Next year, we're going to get back to the breakout sessions, the reveals, workshops, and we got a ton of other cool stuff on deck as well that we are planning. But let's hold off. We don't need to talk about 2022 yet because we're still recapping 2021. Give me a moment. I'm going to go to the comments here because I see they are coming in fast and furious. Let's see what we got here. Visionary. Do you know what time Sir Gerard's will go on sale on Saturday? We have not announced that yet, but Visionary, just because I like you so much, I will tell you they should go up at 3 p.m. Eastern time on legionshop.com. I will talk more about that later today, but as viewers of my show, you get the first information, the first official announcement that 3 p.m. this Saturday is when the additional Sir Gerard's will pop up on legionshop.com. I'll talk more about that whole experience this weekend with the Sir Gerard, the good and the bad. Did we get a head count for this Mythic Weekend? We actually did. So we ordered 450 badges for the show. I can tell you that if I would have had 200, I wouldn't have been happy, but I would have accepted it. It would have doubled our first year. 300, I would have been happy. 400, I would have been ecstatic. We genuinely ran out of badges. We were like writing LegionsCon on ToyCon badges to get some more badges in there. Ultimately, when all was said and done, we had a little over 500 people through that door, which is an absolutely mind-blowing number. I actually can't believe that amount of people was in there. And it was an interesting show. It was really fast and furious up front. Then it slowed down. A lot of people did what they had to do and left. I have some thoughts on that, but we'll get to that. Because before we get to LegionsCon, I want to talk about some of the other events of the weekend. Yeah, Drew saying, love the first LegionsCon. Drew, we totally missed you so much this weekend. There was definitely something special about that first LegionsCon. It was so raw. That first year, being able to say I was there at the first LegionsCon, it was such a quaint, quiet, raw experience, but still just really, really fun. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I also love the growth that we've seen in the plans that we have for the future. Who would win in a fight, Sir Gerard or Lord Viserys? Well, you're talking to Sir Gerard, so I'll say me. If you saw D Amazing, so Darius Prince, incredible photographer, YouTuber. He posted some photos of Sir Gerard, I think today actually, and there's a great photo of Sir Gerard kind of holding a spear up to Lord Viserys's throat. So who would win? I'm not sure, but according to D, it would be me. Curtis saying, I'm really looking forward to LegionsCon 2022. Can't wait to see you there, my friend. You have no idea what we have on deck. It is insanity. Yeah, Rose saying, I missed the virtual chats you had with the artists last year. So honestly, we had planned to do breakout sessions. I wanted to film them and post them. We decided not to do it for health reasons, because we were like, you know what? It's COVID is clearly still a concern. Getting everyone in a tight room together is probably not the best idea. I mean, they were all pretty packed in the main room, but at least you could kind of social distance in there should you choose. To be in a little breakout room wouldn't have allowed for that. That being said, I talked about happy accidents, things that happen and they just happen and it's just the right decision. There's no way we could have pulled off those sessions this year. The schedule was so compressed because the way that it worked was the room that we did LegionsCon in, we couldn't get in there on Saturday to set up because they do bingo in there. So we could only set up Sunday morning. So it was a mad dash for all of the exhibitors to get their stuff set up. And I talked to a lot of exhibitors and they were like, they couldn't catch their breath. There was so much happening. There was so much going on, so many people to meet and talk to, that if we would have had to try to break off to do like sessions, it would have been a detriment to the show. So I missed it as well, Rosedale, but it ended up actually being the right decision. Brian Brink saying, Mythic Legion was awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. It was great to see you there. Let's see. Get the interns to pack and ship All-Star Waves 4. I want my figures. They're coming soon. Don't you worry. They're working on it at the studio now. Nick P saying, LegionsCon was amazing. You guys did a great job. Felt like a kid in a candy store, but also with friendship. Amazing. Absolutely. Let's see. I'm going through these. I've got a lot to cover tonight, so I am going to try to get through some of these. Can you get cosplayers for 2022? We did actually have Joe Colton there. I just literally happen to have a photo of that. So the only cosplayer that I know of, Mythic Legion's cosplayer, is Joe Colton, who is a wonderful friend and just awesome talent. She had done a wonderful Artemis Silvercord cosplay. She actually made the drive to LegionsCon and was walking around dressed as Artemis, meeting fans and taking photos. Weirdly, because we were connected to ToyCon, New Jersey was in the same building, there was someone dressed as a Jawa running around LegionsCon like all day, just kind of being weird and saying Utini and everything, which was funny and annoying at the same time, but whatever, to each his own. But as far as cosplayers go, we're happy to have them there if they want to do a Mythic Legions cosplay. We just need more of them to be ready to do so. Okay. Yeah, Greg, it was a big room. He said it didn't seem like 500. That was a huge room. There's a lot of people there. I mean, just behind the tables, we had over 100 people behind the table. So there was more than 500 in that room. Let's see. Yeah, Dorklear did a great review on the Sir Gerard. I haven't had a chance to watch it all. Awesome. Brian, great. There was a 501st Garrison at at ToyCon. The Jaro was there, but what I was actually trying to click was this one. There was so much to look at the con that I was overwhelmed visually. I agree. I mean, I saw a comment today, someone that didn't even come to LegionsCon. They came to ToyCon, but when the person was like, "Oh, do you want a LegionsCon badge? It's an extra $10 to see that." And they didn't even know what Legions was. And they actually posted a comment on Viteri Productions, Joe's Instagram today saying, "I'm so happy that I went into this Legions room. The amount of art on display was absolutely incredible." And it was stunning. But let's step back for a minute. Let's go back to Intern for a Day. So the Intern for a Day experience, you know that I love Intern for a Day. I've talked about it on the show many, many times, right? I've talked about my experience at Intern for a Day a couple years ago. I backed that as a reward as part of the Advent of Decay Kickstarter. And that was my first time at the studio. That was the first time meeting everybody. And it really did set the stage for everything that came for me in my involvement with Four Horsemen Studios. So I hyped it up really, really hard. And I pushed people and said, hey, if you're on the fence, Intern for a Day is the thing to do. I will tell you, I had multiple, probably 10 interns this weekend come up to me and personally thank me and say, you hyped this thing up so heavy and you undersold it. Like, you absolutely undersold how cool this thing was. And it was awesome. I mean, first off, what people may not realize, I always talk about that studio being pure magic, and it absolutely is, but appropriately enough, with it being the Poxxus wave and magic users being introduced, they kick the level of magic up so much more. The building that Four Horsemen Studios is in is shared with a very large props company called BB Props. They do work for Hollywood, television, for Broadway performances. It's an incredibly cool place, and it's a huge facility. Four Horsemen Studios, well over a year ago, actually moved from where they were in that building to a new, much nicer part of the building. Right around the time they were moving is when COVID hit. So they never really finished the move. Like, they moved their stuff, but they never set it all up. Like, they had visions for how they were going to set this place up. You probably saw some of the photos this weekend of the giant wall that's all Mythic Legions figures. And yes, to answer your question, it is pretty much every figure. They stopped at Aether. There's only 2 Aether figures on the wall right now, Aether and Magnus, because they wanted to make the big square. But everything pre-Aether is on that wall in alphabetical order by wave. So all of Mythic Legions 1.0, 1.5, Covenant of Shadow, all of it, Colosseum, is on that wall. That was something they had wanted to do since day one, but they just never got around to doing it. For so long, there wasn't a lot of people in the studio, so really getting it to the level that they wanted it to be at visually wasn't a high priority. But with all the interns coming, everyone kicked it into high gear and made sure it looked great. And oh my goodness, did it look awesome. So these interns, this group was brought in, they were treated to some breakfast, and then they were broken up into 4 groups, right? So these 4 groups, they all got to go on different workshop experiences, and each experience was about 1 hour long. And after the end of the hour, everyone would shift. And there was the video game team from Great Hall Game Studios. They were there, and they were filming people doing all kinds of moves, right? They had a bunch of prop weapons and stuff, and they were filming people like do different kinds of things with prop weapons to get motion capture to actually use those movements in the Mythic Legions Tactics video game. How cool is that, right? The interns got to act out movements that are going to appear in the game in some form. Another one of the other sessions, or I call them workshops, but whatever you want to call them, was Jim from Four Horsemen, one of the Four Horsemen, taking people on a tour of the building. I mentioned that it's a super cool place. There's a ton to see. So Jim took everyone around and kind of explained all the different pieces to them. So super, super cool stuff there. Cameron and Sherry, 2 master painters, at Four Horsemen Studios, they gave basically a painting workshop. They answered questions about how they paint. They did actually some demonstrations right there live for these different groups. And then down the hall from the actual studio, there's a hallway that connects the main studio area to another back room. There's a big room there. And what they did was we actually projected Eric Treadaway's computer up onto the screen, and he gave a live sculpting tutorial using ZBrush. And I mean, this is like a master class, right? He didn't just sit there and say, okay, I'm going to sculpt the same thing for all 4 sessions. He legitimately was like, what do you guys want to see me sculpt? And he allowed the audience to dictate. He did a skull for the first one. He did the second one. They suggested a female aquatic predator. So he did this crazy looking female fish creature. The third one was an elf. And the fourth one was, I kid you not, a troll scaled werewolf. Super, super cool. If you know anything about the sculptures that Eric has done at a past Intern for a Day, one of those sculptures, the one I went to, he sculpted aliens for us. And one of those alien heads actually made it on to the, the Tusk Sentry is the one it made it onto for Cosmic Legion. So something he sculpted just on the fly at Intern for a Day made it into the line. So you never know. All those interns that saw those pieces get sculpted, you might see one of those down the road. So the interns got to do these different workshops. They had a pizza lunch, and then towards the end of the day, using the information, the tips they had gotten from Cameron and Sherry, they were all presented with this really, really cool bust, right? And I don't have a picture loaded of it, but it was a really cool bust of Belphegor. So what they did was they took the 3D Belphegor file, they blew it up, they made like a bus type stand for it, and they actually did a cast of it. They did a cast and a mold of it, and they produced those for all the interns. The interns were allowed to paint it. Now, some of the interns elected not to paint it. They were like, you know what? I'm going to leave this as is because it's so darn cool. I don't even want to touch it. But a lot of the other interns, they actually painted it, and the head came off of the body. So the interns, not everyone had a +1, but the interns were allowed to bring a +1, and that's what they did. So a lot of them, one person would paint the head, the other person would paint the torso, and it ended up being a super cool, I can't say one of a kind because there was more than one of them, but it's not something that will ever be sold. It was something that was unique to this experience. It even had a little plaque on the back that said Intern for a Day, 2021. So super, super cool that they got to do that. They also got a really cool 4-H intern pin. Chris brought out a box of All-Stars 4 at the end, and they all got to take an All-Stars 4 figure home with them. So they got a lot of cool stuff, but the perks weren't over. Joe Viteri from ToyCon and LegionsCon actually showed up to greet all the interns, and he gave them priority access to both shows over the weekend. They didn't have to wait in line before the show out in the cold. They got to come, and as long as they had their 4-H intern pin, they got to go right in 30 minutes early. But even cooler than that, we heard a bunch of them. So we were sitting there, and we heard a bunch of them say, what are you guys doing tomorrow? Because remember, this is Thursday at Intern for a Day. Friday is G-Con. Big broadcast revealing all the new waves, 6 hours of content, but it's not a public event. You can't come to the studio to see this. It's totally virtually broadcast. So you had all of these interns that were in New Jersey. They weren't going home, or most of them weren't, because they were staying for the weekend. So Walter Hagen, who was, at Intern for a Day, running around like the madman he is, he comes up to us and he says, hey, what are the possibilities of us inviting the interns back tomorrow? And we're like, because he said they don't have anywhere to go. Like, we're listening to them say, oh, do you want to meet in my hotel room and watch? I mean, they were going to meet in their hotel room and watch it on their phones and stuff. So we thought about it. We said, you know what? we can't have them in the studio proper because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of people, a lot of guests, and a lot of secret stuff that we have to have out for the broadcast. But that room that I just mentioned that's down the hall where we did Eric's broadcast, why don't we bring them in there? Why don't we leave all the chairs and tables set up? We'll host them in there and we'll actually project G-Con onto the big screen. So we told all of the interns, hey, guess what? You are all welcome back tomorrow to be here for G-Con Poxxus. And the place absolutely blew up. They were so incredibly excited to be involved in it. It was so cool to get them to do it. And of course, if you watch G-Con, you know that those interns played a huge role. Now, after Intern was done, everyone, went their ways. We went out to dinner, everyone at the studio. We came back, and I was talking earlier about not wanting to leave because you're having so much fun. So we all come back to the studio afterwards, and we were assembling all of the pieces for Poxxus, for the broadcast. I was working on the website, getting all the pages on the back end, ready to reveal everything. And you just didn't want to leave. It was like past midnight and I still hadn't left the studio, but it was so fun hanging out with everybody that I just couldn't imagine getting up and leaving. But finally we said, you know what? We've got to go. We've got to get out of here. So we got up about 12:20, drove to the hotel, totally exhausted, walk into the hotel. Now, one thing you're going to need to know here is there's a Days Inn in Wayne, New Jersey that kind of became the unofficial hotel of LegionsCon. Next year, by the way, there will be an official hotel of LegionsCon, but we'll wait for that. But this kind of became unofficial just because I told everybody, yeah, I stayed there previously. It's clean. It's pretty inexpensive. So everyone started booking. Everyone was booking there. So when I walk in to the Days Inn at like 12:40, there's a little breakfast room right off the lobby. And there's a group of Mythic Legions fans in there drinking and talking. And I'm exhausted. But I look at my son who's with me, my 17-year-old son accompanied me, and I'm like, do you want to hit the room or do you want to talk toys? And he says, I'm always up for talking toys. And I got to hang out in there with some super, super cool people. And I met so many people this weekend that I'm not going to start throwing out names because I know I'm going to forget somebody and I don't want to do that. It's not that it wasn't important. It's that I'm on a live broadcast right now and it's impossible I won't forget somebody. I don't want anyone to feel alienated because in my opinion, probably the coolest thing about this weekend was making connections with people that I knew who they were. I had talked to many of them in the cabal over the years, but never really had a strong connection. And after this weekend, I honestly can say that I have a friendship with them. They were amazing. So I didn't leave that little breakfast room until past 1:30 that night. Totally had to get up the next day to do G-Con, but could not pull myself away. For anyone thinking, should I go to LegionsCon next year? That camaraderie is absolutely irreplaceable. That aspect was absolutely incredible. And you saw the interns come to G-Con. As we were setting up their room, I got the idea and I said, you know what? Why don't we put a camera in front of the room? And I can actually, because I ran the whole broadcast, I said, why don't I bring them in live, just like I would any other guest, every time we do a reveal and get their like live reaction. It was one of those things that it was a spur of the moment decision. So many people this weekend stopped me and said, oh my God, the interns, they were awesome. That was so cool. Once again, with happy accidents, yeah, next year, we're totally doing an intern for a day, and we're totally going to invite them and probably other people to the studio on G-Con to be a live studio audience. It was that much fun. It was so cool. So check this picture out. This is one of my favorite pictures from the weekend. And I've got to find it here. I think this is the one. Yep, this is the one. Check this picture out. This shot was taken after G-Con was done. So after the event was done, the interns did come into the studio proper so they could see all of the prototypes that were on display. And we got a giant photo of everybody. Now, there's a photo like this from the day before, from Intern for a Day, where it's all the interns, because some of the interns could not make it back. So there is one that's all the interns, but this one actually has everybody from the studio in it, along with all of the interns that were there and some of the guests we had in the studio. The My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast crew, they showed up to the studio this day. They had, I'm trying to think. They had Nate Strong with them, and they had okay. I was going to say they had Emil Wickman, but that's the thing. His name, you've probably heard me mention Emil Wickman on this channel many times. I love this guy, right? He flew all the way in from Sweden. And you know what I found out? I've been saying his name wrong the entire time, but he's such a cool dude that he did not want to correct me. His name is not Emil. His name is Emil. Emil Wickman, Nate Strong, super, super cool. Jason Boonstra, they all traveled with the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast crew. They were all there. Absolutely amazing. I've known these people for absolute years. Absolutely, I've known them for a while. I've talked to them so many times. Again, really, really good friends. I've never met them in person. It was absolutely wonderful to be able to hang out with this group. I'm trying to share a picture here, and it's chugging along, not doing it. Oh, hold on a second. I don't know. It's my browser is going really slowly, so I don't know if I'm off air right now or what. So you're saying we can still see and hear you. Okay, well that's good. Because my browser is totally frozen. So the fact that you can see and hear me, that's cool. I'm gonna move this. Yeah, so I can see my camera is actually still going, but I've got something in the middle of it that's not responding. So I'll give it a minute and see if this actually refreshes. But what I was saying was being able to see all those guys, to meet everybody, that was incredible. Oops, someone's messaging me. Let's see. Yeah, Darklear saying, I can still see you live. Very cool. And there's another question asking me when to get the Sir Gerard figure. I've been getting a lot of those, as you can imagine. So that was absolutely incredible. The experience of G-Con, and certainly the wave itself. It's 8:13 now. I haven't even talked about the figures. Probably going to end up having to talk about them at another time. I will say, I told a lot of people that my two favorite figures that I've ever seen in the Mythic Legions line are in this wave. When I was looking at the photos in advance of the reveal, because I saw the photos before I saw the figures, right? The figures were all finished up. They went to Trevor Williams, 1/6 shooter, to do what he does best, those amazing photos of the wave. So I saw the photos that Trevor took before I saw the prototype figures. And just from the photos, the Calazair, the Jinn, obviously I loved that. That's one that right up my alley. If you know my work, you know that one of the very first, if not the very first real Mythic Legions custom I did was a blue-skinned Jinn that is still in my collection. So seeing Calazair, amazing. I loved it. I love the new brute scale that they introduced with Calazair. And then the other one was Poxxus. When I first started working with the Horsemen a couple years ago, they dumped a ton of content on me. They dumped, including like a Bible, like a Mythic Legions Bible that they dumped, and absolutely loved it. Saw a bunch of different things in it, and there were actually, Eric has said that all four of the horsemen, there's the accent coming out from Rhode Island, Maine. All 4 of the horsemen were designed even before that original Kickstarter happened. So in that Bible were sketches of all the horsemen. So when I saw Poxxus, he was the design that I thought was so incredibly cool. Being able to see him in person, that design fully realized, was absolutely amazing. So excited to see that. So they were the 2 that initially I absolutely loved. Once I saw the figures in hand as a Hazar, the big green demon, the painting that Cameron got on those cracks between his chest and everything, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable how good that looks. That was super impressive. The other thing that was super impressive to me was the dragon. Everyone obviously loves the dragon. I have to tell you, the color shimmer paints that Cameron used on that dragon, it's impossible to capture them on film, at least on, in a regular static photo, because the photo doesn't move. So you can't get that shimmer type effect, the color shift effect, where you look at it and it goes from bluish to purplish or whatever. That effect in person was really, really stunning. Also, the size. When you actually see that figure in the extra amount of heft that it has, it's an ogre scale figure, but the way that the shoulders and the neck are and everything, it creates just an absolute crazy extra bit of height on the figure that really makes it super imposing. So this is really a bummer here because I genuinely can't share anything. What I might do is stick with me. I'm going to see if I can just close this really quick and come right back. So stick with me for 1 second. We'll see if this works. Okay. I'm back. There we go. Everyone with me here? Okay. Can everyone hear me? Am I still with you? Is everyone hit me up in the comments? I had to kind of reboot a little bit. Star says, is it me or are their sculpts maturing? They were amazing from the start, but they seem that they're getting better. Yeah, Eric talked about that during the broadcast, the fact that they're able to do things now. Well, I mean, look, yeah, Eric's been now sculpting in ZBrush for this many more years. He's going to get better, but they can also take chances now that they couldn't take back then. I've talked about this. I talked about this last week with Eric, where when they did the first Kickstarter, every part had to be very, very reusable. They couldn't introduce an accessory, a weapon, a body part that was not going to have some longevity. And that's why you saw a lot of those pieces reused so many times. Speaking of that character, Calazar, that Jinn, he comes with a genie lamp. Like, how many more times are they going to use a genie lamp, right? That's not something that's going to be universally used, but it was relevant for that character. It made sense, that accessory for that character, so they included it. That is evidence of a really healthy line where now they can take chances, they can invest money on tooling, knowing that they don't need to reuse every single part as many times as they had to in the early days. The success of the line has helped with that. So very, very cool. So let's see if I can do this again. When my computer crashed, I was trying to share one specific photo, and it was this one, a photo of me and Lord Stephen Bisciotti. So Stephen is someone that I've, again, known forever. It seems like forever. I've definitely known him for a few years. I've talked to him many, many times. I've been interviewed on his podcast. Him and I have now started, I'm now a regular a fixture on Legions Cast whenever we actually get around to doing them. So I engage with Steven all the time. We are both on Team Wolf King. We both paint and contribute ideas to Wolf King Customs. He's a painter for Legion Shop. Literally, I am engaged with Steven in a big way. Never met him until this week. Same thing with Travis. Same thing with Pete. And even Jeremy DeWitt, who I'd never spoken to before this weekend. Super cool dude. It was wonderful to meet them. And the first time meeting all of them was at Intern for a day. Curtis, I kind of brought this up partially for you, and you don't disappoint me with this comment. No wonder your browser crashed. That's too much sexy for YouTube. Look at our hair in that photo. I mean, Steven's hair was on point all weekend. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Steven was looking very, very lordly this weekend. Very, very cool. That type of stuff, that type of engagement was super cool. Being able to go out with fans. So Saturday was ToyCon, right? Awesome day at ToyCon. People absolutely hit up that Four Horsemen table. I got to meet a ton of people. I did try to do some live streaming. A bunch of you reached out to me and thanked me for that. It was not easy to do, but I definitely wanted to bring some of that home. But one of the cool things that happened after ToyCon was a bunch of people were like, hey, we're going to be going over to this restaurant bar to hang out after that. And this is the point. Like Friday night, people started showing up. And actually, I have a good picture from Friday night. Let me get to that for a minute before ToyCon. Because what happened after after G-Con was done, a lot of people went their separate ways. And when we got back to the hotel, this was the point where a lot of people were starting to arrive, right? Some people had arrived on, Wednesday. Some people arrived on Thursday. I hung out all day with Walter Hagen at the studio on Thursday. Nate Barch, Israel Ramirez, they were at the studio all day Thursday. So we got to hang out with all of them. Actually, when we went out to dinner, it was a huge group of us, right? After Intern for a day, and the main table was totally full. So my table was myself, Eric Treadaway, Chris Gorick, Israel Ramirez, and my son Jacob. And I gotta tell you, I wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else. That was such a cool table to be at. Just being there and just brainstorming and stuff with that group, talking about, like, part of it was brainstorming and talking about new ideas. Part of it was just geeking out. Like Eric and I talked about Transformers for like 45 minutes at one point. Super, super cool to do that. But that type of engagement was incredible. So seeing a lot of people on Thursday was cool. But then Friday, everyone started showing up. And this was one of the photos that I snapped that I really, really liked. This was from the lobby at the Days Inn. So Nikki had shown up. Eric LeBron had shown up. Actually, Walter and Greg had picked them up at the airport. They showed up. And then the other guy in this photo, you may not recognize him. His name is Jerome. He posts online as Oberon's Plastic Dreams, I believe it is. What a cool dude. What a cool dude. And one of the things I'll talk about when I get to LegionsCon is there were some tables that I was expecting to see and be excited for, like Nikki, like Dennis, like Eric, Joe Vassapolo, and their tables were awesome. They did not disappoint. But there were some artists there whose work I'm admittedly not as familiar with Nikki, Dennis, and myself, we're kind of the old guard. We've been doing this for a really long time. So we know each other. We've known each other for years. I'm going to be totally honest right now. Seeing some of the work at the show this weekend and some of the displays, I was like, holy, I have to up my game for next year. I have to up my game the way I present my work, some of the stuff that I show, because some of the stuff that was on the show floor was mind-blowing. Oberon's Plastic Dreams blew my mind. Anthony says, Patrick Boyle, awesome. awesome stuff. I was joking. Patrick Boyle has the worst camera in the history of the world. This dude does beautiful work, and he takes photos of it, and it does not capture what it does. I was literally like, Patrick, you have to get yourself a better camera, because I'm looking at these things and the camera doesn't do it justice. But Jerome's stuff blew me away, absolutely blew me away. So that was a cool thing, getting everyone together. That was a lot of fun. But this is what happened after ToyCon. So after ToyCon, we all went, and I got to find it here. We all went out to a restaurant called Mother's Ale House. And I was with a group that got there a little early. That was actually my first time, because Len from Wolf King, he didn't show up until late Saturday. So Len is someone, I mean, you've heard me talk about Len many times. I've had him on the show. You may not know that I've only ever been in person with Len one time, at the 2019 LegionsCon. I've never seen Len other than that show. And that's before we started working together. So Len has become legitimately one of my best friends. I love that guy so much. He is such a hard worker, such a creative mind, and just a wonderful person that will give anything to help this community. So I was thrilled to see Len and Cookie, the two that ran the Wolf King Customs table on Sunday. So we went out together with all the podcast crew, Trevor Williams, Emil. It was super fun. But then a lot of other people started showing up, and they were kind of in a back room, a back area of Mother's Ale House. So after we were done eating, we went out there to hang out with them, and it was an amazing group of people. And I pulled aside a waitress and I said, hey, can you please take a photo of all of us? And this is the photo that I posted. And this doesn't actually show everyone that was there, because there were still a handful of people that were on the other side of the restaurant at this point. But this, to me, was the highlight of LegionsCon. And I don't just mean this photo, this particular evening. I mean this type of camaraderie, because, by the way, after this was done and people started leaving the bar, it went back to the hotel, and we were all in the hotel lobby for hours after this. I actually can't believe that they didn't come at the hotel and tell us to be quiet, because it got a little rowdy in there. Like, it was definitely loud. There was definitely some adult beverages being consumed, but so much fun. Everyone was having an absolute blast. And it was funny. So there were a couple people that were part of Intern for a day, and they were like inseparable all weekend. They were at Intern for a day. They came together for G-Con. They were in the lobby at the hotel. They were hanging out at ToyCon. And I asked them, right? I said, did you guys know each other before today? And they said, well, kind of. I mean, we knew who each other were. We had talked on the Cabal. But I was like, were you like friends? And they were like, no, I wouldn't say. We weren't close. And they absolutely bonded so much. And I mean, you were looking at them and you would have thought that they had known each other forever. And even that, I mean, there are legitimately people that I have seen on the Cabal for years who I had such incredible conversations with this weekend. It was absolutely, I'm just gushing because the experience, I'm just thinking about it, and it was amazing. I want to quit my job and be an intern at Mythic Legions. Dude, I totally hear you, Nicholas. It is pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Patrick's pirate skeleton was amazing. Absolutely. Rich's Kaisa's table. Yes. Oberon's amethyst skeleton caused me to fall in love. Yeah, that was awesome. Sir Gerard is amazing. Well, thank you very much. So let's talk about Sir Gerard. So we get to the point where it's LegionsCon, right? And I couldn't sleep. like I really couldn't sleep. I went in my room at a little bit past midnight on Saturday night. I was up at 4 o'clock. I was supposed to be at the venue for 6 a.m. because remember, we couldn't set up early. So it was a mad dash to get everything set up. Yeah, Joe, I can confirm everything Jeremy is saying is true. Meeting up with the Kimball fam was mythic. Yeah, I said I wouldn't drop names, but Joe was one of the people. Like some of the stuff I'm saying right now is about Joe. Like literally some of the stuff I'm picturing Joe and Wyatt and everybody in head. And it's, Michael. I mean, yeah, it was absolutely incredible, dude. It was so, but anyway, 4 o'clock, I'm up. I can't go to sleep. Worried about getting over to the venue. So we finally get over to the venue. I pull up at 6 a.m. and there's about 40 people in line outside of the venue 3 hours before doors. I go up to the first person in line, wonderful Mythic Legions and Mythic Customs fan named Steve, and I ask him what time he got there, and he got there at midnight, which I don't understand why, but he's done it a few times. He gets there really early, and some of the other people that were really early in line had gotten there super early as well. And it's kind of their thing that they do, I think. They did it also at ToyCon in May, and they did it at ToyCon on Saturday, where they get in line like silly early, and they have like camaraderie. Like they were in line while I was still partying back at the hotel. And that's so cool. That's so he told me that when he was walking out of the hotel to head to the venue to get in line, he walked past us partying in the lobby. I wish he would have come over and hung out with us for a while, but to each his own. He's got his thing. So it was super cool to see all of them there. They were in line, and as the vendors started showing up and everything started getting set up, the line got bigger and bigger and bigger. Obviously, everyone was there for not only LegionsCon and Four Horsemen Studios, but this guy right here, Sir Gerard. So this was obviously a big draw. And I walked outside before the show, and someone who was deep in line, was like, hey, I'm not going to get a Sir Gerard, am I? I'm too late. And I said, dude, you will absolutely get a Sir Gerard. You'll absolutely get it. And actually, I'll show you the table. So this was the Sir Gerard table that was set up as people walked in. This was in the corner where everyone would go. And over in the corner, Walter, my man Greg, they were over there helping handle the lines to get everyone their Sir Gerard figure. And, obviously there's been some comments about Sir Gerard, the fact that it's an exclusive and everything. One thing I will tell you, because clearly while we were on the showroom floor, people were buzzing and they were like, a Sir Gerard sold on eBay for $200. They were $50 at the shop. So everyone was buzzing and they were like, oh my God, did you see ones on, one sold on eBay for 200? Someone's got one for 400 up there, blah, blah, blah. You can't prevent that. But I'll tell all of you, what we did. So this is how we handled Sir Gerard. Because anyone who's ever been to a toy show knows one of the challenges is that vendors hit the tables first, grab all the best stuff, bring it back to their booths to sell it or to flip it on eBay. So what we did was this. The vendors that were at ToyCon wanted to buy a badge to come in and buy a Sir Gerard. They're already in the building, right? Because they already have a pass to be in the building for ToyCon. So they were already lining up and they were first at the door. Everyone else, all the Mythic Legions fans, they're outside. They're not in the building. All the ToyCon vendors are in the building. And by the way, they're not bad people. You know what? They're collectors. They're fans. They're looking to, get a little something extra. I don't begrudge them that. But I'm not letting them cut the line. So I said to the ToyCon vendors, nope, you are not, none of you are getting in this room and getting in this line until everyone who's outside of those doors gets in this line. We held them back and they were super cool. They weren't like belligerent about it or anything. They were super, super cool. Every Mythic Legions fan outside in line got in that door, got in that line before even one vendor got in. And you know what? They all got it. If you came to LegionsCon 2021, you got a Sir Gerard figure if you wanted one. We had enough. And I've said this before, we didn't have our full run. Because of delays in shipping, we, Joe and myself, paid to air ship those figures into the show to make sure that our guests had them. So every single person who was there who wanted one got one. We took the badges, we stamped the badges, we clipped the badges so we could, honor this one per person limit. And that's the best that we can do. You can't, when people come up, you can't say, hey, what are your intentions for this figure? Ultimately, my biggest concern was that the fans that had paid to be there, that had come to be there, were able to actually get it. And I'm very happy to say that everybody did. Now, there are more coming. And I told people, don't get crazy. Don't go on eBay and spend $400. There are more that are on the way. The plan is that this coming Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to put a limited amount of them up at legionshop.com for sale. When I say limited amount, we only have, these are already produced. Okay, this isn't a pre-order that we're making them to order. They already exist. So we have a certain number left. It is going to go fast. Is it more than the individual figures offered during an in-stock sale? Yes, it is. It's considerably more, actually. But I know the desire for this figure. It is going to go quickly. So legionsshop.com is where you're going to want to be. Okay, that's it. They are one per person. I'm going to send out an email to all of the subscribers to legionshop.com. If you go to legionshop.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, there's a little form there that you can fill out. It is one per person, and I'm very, very clear that if I catch someone buying more than one, I'm going to cancel their orders. That's just the way it is. I also am going to make a plea to all of those people that were at LegionsCon Live who got a Sir Gerard. If you want a second one, please allow somebody else who wasn't at the show live to get it instead. That's the cool thing to do. That's supporting the community, because you know what? Before you know it, this one will be available. This is the standard edition Sir Gerard, and clearly it doesn't have the skeleton head. It's got the regular helmeted head. But if you just want another Sir Gerard body, this one's going to be available in much larger numbers. And I told you that we hadn't released the bio for the character, but I would read it and talk about it after the fact. I can do that now. And at the time, I said the skeleton head is not critical to the figure. Like, a lot of people were like, that's the best head. Should have been the one that was the regular edition. And it may be the head that you think is cooler, but it's not the character. What was revealed when this character's bio was revealed was that he's a changeling. So this is a brand new race in Mythic Legions, and he is a character that can change his appearance. Allow me to read the bio to you, okay? Lift my glasses. Enjoying a position of power in the Sons of the Red Star, Sir Gerard has the distinct privilege of being the commander of the Dark Templars. A changeling whose appearance shifts with his current situation, he is seemingly part of Lord Vityrus's plot to overthrow Scapular the Cryptbreaker, and can sometimes be seen wearing a visage that is strikingly similar to Scapular's own. Where does this warrior's loyalty really lie, and who will his Dark Templars fight for in the end? Only Sir Gerard knows that answer. So, yeah, I get to write that bio, and how freaking cool that they literally let me be the commander of the Dark Templars. Like, seriously, dude, I have the best job in the world, right? I have the best job. I'm so lucky. So what has been happening with Sir Gerard is an interesting and absolutely awesome thing. I saw my buddy Bill from Dorklair the other day pop a Gomez head on Sir Gerard and say, it's canon, right? Because he's a changeling and he can change his appearance however he wants to suit his situation, you can basically pop any head you want on this figure. What I basically did was I made the ultimate LBC. You literally can put any head you want on the figure, and it's canon. He can look like that. That's what he may look like. So you talk about me being a lazy boy customizer. They joke about me being LBC. That had a strong reason why I did what I did, and I made the ultimate LBC for all of you to enjoy. So super fun. Adrian saying the Zartan of Mythic Legions. Absolutely. I was thinking about that as well. Zartan leads the Dreadnoks. Sir Gerard leads the Dark Templars. A mercenary little army. I totally had that in mind when I made him as well. I'm a huge fan of Zartan as well. So, but that's a lot of fun. So Curtis saying, speaking of reveals this weekend, we got the mouse parts. Yeah, those were a hit at the show. Thank you. Can you give us a hint at what you have planned for Gnomes? So we are working on Gnomes right now. That same scale, Curtis, is going to work really, really well. As of right now, we're working on a couple heads. One of them is a super tinker gnome, as you'd expect. There's another one that I'm having some fun with. We're also doing one that's more of like, not a bearded gnome, maybe more of like a halfling type character, but could still work as like a young adolescent type gnome. I'm also working on a new pair of feet that's more halfling-like. So that's where we're starting for the Gnomes so far. I'm sure we're going to make a lot of different ones. Yeah, Visionary says, king of the LBC, baby. So Michael says, I was a vendor at ToyCon and a big Mythic Legions fan, so it was cool with waiting for the guys outside to get theirs. I was just worried I might not get one. I love the Knights, man. So Michael, thank you very much for that comment, because as Michael pointed out, he was part of that group. He was a vendor, and they all got him. Because that's the whole thing. Some of those vendors got the figure only to flip it. But there were Mythic Legions fans in that room who wanted it for themselves. I know someone earlier said how many of them are on eBay. It is a fraction, a small fraction of the amount that were sold. And by the way, they're not limited to 400. There's a bunch of eBay posts that are like, oh, it's limited to 400. That's not the truth. Nobody knows the case packs. Nobody knows the run size except for myself and everyone at the studio. And 400 is not the number. So don't believe the hype. Is it limited? Absolutely. Is it a lot more limited than some of the current runs of figures? Yeah, it's a show exclusive. That's kind of what it's meant to be. But as I said, between the regular edition figure and other stuff, you've got a shot at the Sir Gerard character. Awesome. And I know a lot of people want the skeleton head. Even if they didn't want the skeleton head on Sir Gerard, they just wanted that skeleton head because scapular is very hard to find. Countess, which is the only other figure that has it, is very hard to find. So I get that, but who knows? You might have another shot at that head down the road. Awesome. Someone's texting me here. Let's see. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to read some comments and see what's going on here. What does Mythic Legion Sir Gerard look like in his original form, given that he's a changeling? Do I have a specific look, or do they originally all look like Jeremy? They don't look like me. I have no interest in them looking like me. A number of people asked me this weekend if someone was going to sculpt ahead of me. Sabadam actually has sculpted ahead of me. Dennis Derby did it as a surprise for me a while back. I've asked them not to sell that head. As cool as it is to have a figure with my name on it, having people have figures with my face on it feels a little too self-congratulatory, even for me. So I decided that I really do not want that at all. So what does he look like normally? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Use your fodder bins to LBC that lazy boy changeling. Yeah, so that's what's been happening, right? People have been posting all different heads. I saw someone post a Richard Simmons head on on Sir Gerard, and they say like it's canon, and then someone at the show bought one of my custom rabbit heads and rabbit feet and the carrot. I sold it as a set. It was the rabbit head, the rabbit feet, and a carrot, and he put that on Sir Gerard, and he's been posting all these photos of Sir Gerard as a rabbit. That is awesome. Keep doing those things. Like, people are playing with this toy. They're having fun with it. They're doing ridiculous things and laughing and having joy. That is legitimately what this is all about. That is absolutely what toys are all about. So the fact that people love the figure, I mean, as is. So I will be honest, when I actually opened it up and positioned him, I was like, wow, a lot of people have said I did a good job in my part selection. And looking at it, it was a proud moment. It was a very proud moment looking at it and just being like, this thing is damn cool. And skull head or not, I mean, the regular head is darn cool as well. Let me put that on. I love this regular head. Gorgo was the figure that really brought me into the line. So when I got to choose a part, it was very much wanting to do that head. Look how cool that is. I mean, come on. He's the colors of the A-Team van. You can't go wrong with the colors of the A-Team van. Now I got to get a B.A. Baracus head to put on him. Absolutely. Very cool. Okay, what else we got going here? Yeah, Visionary saying, I only need 1 exclusive and 10 non-exclusives. It's a cool, dude, it's a cool base body for sure. Absolutely. Okay. Someone did ask me the price that they will be this weekend on Legion Shop. They're $60 on Legion Shop, which is the price of what you would have had to pay for the show pass and the figure itself at the show. So the non-attendee price being a few dollars extra. It honestly also helps us cover some of the fees and everything that we have to pay while still, making the money. So you're basically paying what you would have paid at the con between the door pass and the figure. Let's see. Patrick saying best bio ever. Changeling is the best part. Yeah. So Patrick, my friend Patrick, is another huge Sons of the Red Star fan. I really, really was excited for him to see it. And I was excited for all of you because when I wrote this, that line where it says that he has the distinct privilege of being the commander of the Dark Templars, like multiple people I saw read it. I actually handed the figure to Anthony House Seal while he was waiting outside. And when he read that, he laughed. And he was like, oh my God, the distinct privilege. A lot of Mythic fans who don't watch the show every week, that went right over their head. But I don't know why I ever started saying that phrase. Like that was never a phrase I used before I started saying it here. But the more I started saying it, it kind of became my little catchphrase, right? And the more I thought about it, I mean, this is an absolute privilege. What I get to do with the studio and with all of you is absolutely a privilege. I genuinely feel blessed. And all weekend, especially on Sunday, so many people came up to me. So many people were asking for my autograph, which is just a genuinely weird thing. And I was happy to sign their figures. I was happy to engage with everybody. I told all of you on this channel, I said, if you see me running around like a madman and you want to talk to me, stop me. Stop me, talk to me. That's what I'm there for. And I'm happy to say that you all did it. You stopped me. We engaged. That was my favorite part of the weekend. Having a figure with my name on it, super cool. Getting to be there to see all those Poxxus reveals, awesome. Going out to dinner and all of the camaraderie with the studio, priceless. But the best thing was just being there with everybody that attended. I said at the top of this show that we're working on 2022 plans already. and the stuff we have planned is going to be it's going to be so much more to do, so much more to see than what we had this year. We're incredibly excited for these growth plans. All I can say is when Joe and I first started really planning this year, I told him what my mission was. I said, everyone who shows up needs to have so much fun that they cannot imagine not attending next year. I think that's mission accomplished. Everyone, to a person that came up to me, was just blown away. And all of the vendors, too. Like every one of the vendors was like, this was awesome. I had some very personal conversations with people that I'm not going to share here, but they were incredibly touching and validating for the work that we put in. The second part of the mission was for everyone at home who couldn't be there this year. It has to be so epic that they can't imagine not being involved next year. And I think that we set that precedent. We set that kind of sense of FOMO that they want to be there. So that's another one of the reasons why we're going to drop the dates really early. We're going to give you a ton of advance notice so you can try to work this into your plans for 2022. So with that, I'm going to see, I've got a few more pictures here from the weekend that I haven't shown yet. Let's see what I've got to show. What haven't I shown yet? Actually, this is a good one. So this is a photo that I took actually at the start of LegionsCon. And this is me. So I'm in the far corner of the room behind the Four Horsemen Studios table. And I was there with Eric. Eric Treadaway is the gentleman who's making a gesture in the red shirt. So that's Eric right there. So I said to Eric, I said, hey, do me a favor. Go and kind of open your arms to make it look like you're like, look at this, ta-da, kind of thing. And you can't even really see the scope of the room from this particular photo. You know, this is the far corner, and it's like 7,000 square feet. It just absolutely stretches. To see everyone pour in was super cool. And I mean, one thing that was interesting was it was really busy when the doors opened. Everyone poured in, right? And then everyone hit the Sir Gerard table. Everyone hit the Four Horsemen table. And then a lot of people did, some rounds. And it did start to get slower a few hours later. By like 11 o'clock, a good portion of the crowd left. There was still a lot of people in that room, but it's such a large room that it looked much more spaced out. But what was interesting, and I was talking to a couple people about this, what was interesting was even though the crowd thinned, the energy remained. There was still just an electric type energy throughout the entire building, even though the crowds had thinned down a bit. And it didn't stop all day. I mean, I talked to the vendors, and most of them were like, yeah, dude, all day people were buying. All day people were coming back and they were grabbing more stuff. There was so much. So like the Legion Shop table, we had one table for Legion Shop, and we got there. I brought so much product. There was stuff we didn't even put out on the table because we had no room. We literally just dumped a box of weapons out, and we're like, people can sift through them because we had no room. Like I literally needed 2, maybe 3 tables to properly display the Legion Shop stuff. There was so much stuff to see, so much stuff to do. I mentioned that there were certain artists there that blew me away. Everyone did an absolutely amazing job. Oberon's Plastic Dreams, crazy. Right on the side of Oberon's Plastic Dreams, there was a gentleman. His name is Ivan. He posts online as Grim Digon. Very soft-spoken dude. Was at Intern for a day, was at the dinner and everything. Super cool guy. Like when he reached out to me asking if he could exhibit, I didn't know much about his work. Said absolutely. He didn't want me to promote him. was like, no, you don't have to put me on the website. I just want to be there. This dude's work was insanity. Absolute insanity. So good. So creative. Such a wide variety. Those two being side by side, that was a power section right there. Absolutely incredible. Eric Miller, you've all seen Eric Miller's wonderful paint work on like the Medusa heads from Teal Titan. In person, his work is stunning. And he had some wonderful pieces and a great display. The way he exhibited everything, absolutely stunning. Obviously, people like Nikki, Crashbox, Dennis, Eric LeBron, Joe Vassapolo, you expected their stuff to be great. But some of those unexpected pieces really surprised me. And there was a wide variety. Obviously, Anthony Houseal was there with all of his dwarf love. He had some really cool stuff set up. He had been working on some cool stuff leading up to the show that he had on display, cool dwarf armor. Team Wolf King. I mean, Len's display was insane. The amount of stuff he had was insane. People were like, I can't believe how much stuff he has on display. Here's a little secret. There was tons of it that didn't get put out. We ran out of time. I brought probably 15 customs for display at his booth that never got put out because we just ran out of time during setup. That's one of the things we're going to do next year as well. We've got some different setup plans to make it much easier on all of the vendors to get their stuff set up in a timely manner. Eric Miller was so out of the box thinking for a customizer. I was completely floored, Eric LeBron said. Yeah, absolutely. Savage says the level of talent was crazy. It really was. And it's interesting. So I had a conversation with George Gaspar from Four Horsemen Studios. George has worked with the studio for a long time, but is recently a new addition as a full-time employee. You might know George from the early Wednesday show that he does with Chris on the Four Horsemen Studios YouTube channel. So George, he knows Mythic Legions, obviously, but he doesn't know the depth of the community the way that he's starting to now. So he came up to me at one point and he said, I don't understand this. I don't understand the show. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, there's amazing stuff here and most of it's not for sale. George is so used to a toy show or a collectible show or any kind of exhibit show where people bring stuff they want to sell. And there was a lot to buy at this show, trust me, not only from the 3D part creators, but a lot of the customizers, myself included, were actually selling pieces. We were doing that. But most of the pieces on display were not for sale. Emma Wickman was there with his Mythiverse, Marvel-inspired Legions figures. Many people offered him money for those. Trevor Williams offered him a substantial amount of money for those, and he wouldn't sell them. So that was going on. I had a kitsune there that painted up like Zartan that I got offered multiple offers for that I turned down. My Voodoo Queen that a lot of people love, I got offered multiple offers for her. I turned them down. So a lot of stuff was not for sale. And I told George, I said, LegionsCon is kind of like toy show meets art exhibit. Because that's a big part of what it is. And that's how it started, right? When we did the first LegionsCon, it was all about come out, bring your stuff, bring your customs, bring your art, display them for people to see. It wasn't only about bring it out and sell. There was almost no sales at the first LegionsCon. So that is something, the comment I'm responding to is people talking about the level of talent in that room. I'm really proud of what we assembled in that room. I'm really proud not only at the level of talent, but at the level of people. Everyone in that room, to a person, was gosh darn awesome. Everyone in there was so appreciative to be there, so respectful, so awesome. Honestly, I can't thank them enough. And I had a lot of you come up to me, both exhibitors and fans this weekend. I've had a lot of you reach out to me since then, thanking me for the work that I put in what I did. I certainly wasn't alone. You know, I, I'm in the position where I'm often the loudest in the room. So that's the role I get to play. And I love playing it. I love being host. I love directing everybody. You know that if you watch me and you watch my show and you see my work, I love to showcase my art, but I love even more to showcase other people's art and say, look at this. The interviews I do for Source Horseman, the guests I have on my show, the customizers that I work with, the people that I bring into Legion Shop. That's all about the spirit of LegionsCon. It's about expanding the community. It's about introducing more people to this wonderful community and line that we all love so much. So everyone who thanked me this weekend, you're very, very welcome. But I give it right back to you. Thank you. Because I put a post in the Cabal yesterday, and the sentiment I shared was, without all of the exhibitors that were there, there would be no show. And there would be no fans to come to the show. And without the fans, there would be no line. There would be no Mythic Legions. None of us would be doing this. So for every thank you you give me, turn it right back on yourself. Thank you for what you do for this community. Thank you for the support you lend this line. Just thank you for being you. And thank you for all the support of LegionsCon 2021. It was absolutely amazing. I still haven't wiped the smile off my face, and I legitimately cannot wait till next year. I'm going to answer a few questions before I go for the night because, as I told you all weekend, I'm not ready to call it an evening yet. I'm not ready to say goodbye. Will Cosmic Series 1 be out by LegionsCon 2022? Oof. I don't know. We're looking at next November again. That would be just about a year. There's a ton of new tooling on that. I think it's likely I think that there'll be prototypes there for sure. Like there might be one of the things, for instance, that was at LegionsCon. And actually, that's one of the fun things is we said that we were going to display all of the Poxxus prototypes at LegionsCon. But it was so crazy at the start that they didn't want to put them on the table for fear they would get damaged. So everyone that came to LegionsCon did it quickly and left. They totally missed out that like by lunchtime, all of the Poxxus wave was on the table to be looked at. And the pre-production samples from the factory of deluxe Legion builders were also on the table. The pre-production samples of Alithia are at the studio, but they actually, at the end of G-Con, the mail that came in that day had the pre-production samples of deluxe Legion builders. They look awesome, by the way. So those were on the table as well. So maybe there'll be pre-production samples of Cosmic, but unfortunately, I would not expect the production figures for sale to be there. Faint of Heart says, I hope I can make it. I want to be part of all that. Absolutely. Trust me, it is going to be totally worth it. Like I said, we're going to give you a ton of advance notice. So hopefully you can save up, make plans, whatever it is you need to do to make it so you're there next week. Savage G says, let's not forget your son holding that booth down. Yeah, thank you very much for pointing that out. My son had a wonderful weekend this weekend. He has a photo. When they brought him on G-Con, Eric interviewed my son and ML Wickman together, and it was a highlight. He was just thrilled this weekend to hang out and be with everybody. He met so many cool people. He loved the My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me podcast crew. Like he legitimately thought they were all so funny. He really liked Pete. Like he really was like, Pete's a very funny guy. And I'm like, yes, Pete's a very funny guy. So Pete McCarthy, I know you're not watching this, but maybe somebody who is will remind you that my son found you very amusing. Awesome. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, Will White saying, "Look at all the blue wings everyone wants now." Yeah, there's actually a bunch of them for sale at LegionsCon. They were available on the table. Greg saying, "I'm in that photo." Yes. Travis said on Legion's Lounge, I imagine you mean Trevor. He's right. By next year, it will be Legion's Weekend, not just Mything. Adding Cosmic to all this is going to be insane. Yeah, there will be some kind of presence for awesome. Eric saying it was amazing to be in the room when everything started. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing to be in the room all day. Such an energy. Such an energy. What a great community of collectors, Visionary says. Can't agree with you more. Oh, yeah, Luis Leland and Rich Keist's work. I said I was going to forget people. All of them were absolutely amazing. Funny, I'd never known Luis before the first Legions Con. That was the first time I met him and saw his work, and he blew me away. And he had some pieces at this one that were stunning. The God's Fire stuff that he did that were created by Stephen and Emil, ML, and printed by Wolf King. Dude, his God's Fire figures are so fully realized. Absolutely love them. He had a great table. Matt Rhodes had a ton of cool stuff. Dude, literally everybody that was there was just killing it. Also, the independent toy creators, that's something that hasn't gotten a ton of people talking about, but one of the things we did at this Legions Con that we're going to expand on next year is Mythic Legions is a homegrown toy line. It's an original IP that they built from the ground up. This community is a grassroots community. They started small. They did a Kickstarter. They've built this community year over year. It's incredible what Four Horsemen Studios has achieved since this line came out. The reality is there's a ton of other independent toy creators doing some really exciting work. If you're ever concerned, or if you're ever bummed that there's too much sameness in the toy aisle, I don't need another Iron Man, I don't want another Batman. Yeah, that's what the major manufacturers are producing for the aisles at Target. There is so much cool stuff that independent toy creators are doing, and having a platform like a Kickstarter allows them to actually get these ideas to life. So we wanted to bring some of them to the show to really focus and shine a spotlight on that aspect. We had Creative Beast Studios that do those massive Beasts of the Mesozoic figures, big giant dinosaur figures. Fox Forge Toys with their Stardust line, very space themed line. I first met them in May at ToyCon, and their product was being shown. It was very early form. They went back, they even improved it more. They added more articulation. It is looking super, super cool. They're going to knock that thing out of the park once they get those fully released. Plunderlings was there. Super, super cool. It was Plunderlings and Planetary Dog Toys. Unfortunately, Saba and Julie couldn't travel, but they had a representative there that was selling a bunch of their stuff. They also had some super cool, like full customs that were on display. Their giant werewolf and their Damascus Prince set. Super, super cool. Hopefully we'll see them in person next year. But yeah, Plunderlings, who Saba had sculpted that for them. That's where that relationship comes from. They were there as well. Chris Gorick was there promoting his upcoming Biblical Adventures line, part of his D13 toys. Everyone knows Chris from the work with Four Horsemen, but he's actually putting out some of his own figures as well. So he was showing some prototype stuff there. And again, in future years, we want to expand on this. We want more independent toy creators to be a part of the show. We think that's something that has huge potential for future Legions cons. Yeah, the weapons that Detour was selling were crazy. Yeah, that's not surprising. Stefan's stuff is absolutely out of this world. So good. Oh, you know what table I haven't mentioned yet that was insanity was Immortal Collections. Oh my holy goodness. Those guys were nuts. Man, phone is going crazy tonight. Those guys were going, their stuff was so good. They created all of these like Oni figures, custom heads, custom torsos, armor pieces, beautiful, bold colors, some of the most fully realized character designs I can imagine. Loved, loved them. They were also at Intern for a day on Thursday, and that Belphegor head, Carlo from Immortal, reaches out to me and he's like, hey, would it be okay if we actually painted that head and put it on a custom to display at LegionsCon? And I was like, yeah, it's your head to do what you want with. Go ahead, that's cool. And the head is a little oversized for an ogre, but the new torso they sculpted for ogre scale is a little big to begin with, so it worked beautifully on that. If you see any photos of a giant oversized purple Belphegor from the show, that's Immortal Collections. He had it holding one of the Detour giant double lances. Oh, they killed it. Now I've had the chance to work with Tristan and Carlo, not only on the stuff they bring for Legion Shop, but I've worked with Tristan on a couple cool pieces. He sculpted the Wendigo head and the Demon Ogre head, also the Forest Flayer head. I've loved working with those guys, and I am telling you, they are a force to watch in the future. They've got some super cool ideas coming up on stuff. Someone asking for t-shirts. So I don't know what t-shirts you're asking for. If you're asking for officially licensed Mythic Legions t-shirts, you want to check out retrorags.com. Retro Rags, they are super cool company. They were at LegionsCon exhibiting and selling t-shirts. They are the official license holder for Mythic Legions apparel. They had a bunch of cool stuff at the show. On their website as well, retrorags.com. You can get that stuff. If you're asking for a Mythic Customs t-shirt or like a Cabal t-shirt like I have, those are actually available from wolfkingcustoms.com. Those are clearly not official things, or I mean kind of official. I mean, the Cabal is pretty official, but those are not available through Retro Rags. Those are available through wolfkingcustoms.com. It is also worth mentioning, by the way, that wolfkingcustoms.com does have a sale going on right now. All the stuff that debuted at the show, Emil and Steven debuted their Corrupterans. Really cool. I don't even know what they are. They're part of the God's Fire series, but they were cool. I believe they said they're like very rich, kind of aristocratic type characters. Super cool, helmeted and unhelmeted heads. Really cool pauldrons. My mouse parts are available right now. The spider parts that I designed. Ton of cool stuff that Len did, like the Jersey Devil and the Hellhound. Look, there's a ton of cool stuff. wolfkingcustoms.com. That sale went live Saturday from the show floor at ToyCon. A lot of that stuff was available actually at the show. I have heard some people asking about the mouse kits and how to use them. I'm going to shoot a video. Actually, probably once I'm done this, I'm going to shoot a video on how to use the mouse parts. So look for that to drop later this weekend as well. So when you get those mouse parts, you know exactly what to do. Or if you picked up the mouse parts at LegionsCon, you can use it now as well. Okay, let's see. Adrian saying, this has been a great show to listen to. Definitely try to make it next year. It's my job, man. I'm the hype man. I got to get people in the door. But trust me, once I get you in the door, you thank me for it. You're like, this was really cool. Thanks for dragging me here. So Will's saying, next year will be separate from New Jersey Toy Con. It would be cool to have a gallery area somehow. When you mean gallery, do you mean like art gallery, or do you mean like a place to hang out? It's going to, I can't release too much information yet, because if something doesn't happen, I don't want to have to shift gears this early. Let's see. Yeah, Leland killed it. He had some super, super cool stuff. Again, Leland's someone whose work I've seen for a while. He did some super cool stuff with my kitsunes, gave it like a ponytail and stuff. Clearly, I'm super partial to those. But Leland's work has amazed me. I've seen Leland's work in person a couple times before, so I wasn't as, I guess, surprised by it because I know that Leland does amazing work. It was cool though, because on a personal level with Leland Retrospect Customs, he was not an exhibitor at the first LegionsCon, but he was an attendee. And I remember him walking around with a backpack, and I remember him like pulling out figures saying like, hey, can I show you a custom? And he would like pull it out and he was like showing people. So the fact that he went in a couple years from that to being one of our exhibitors with a table that was just awesome, that's super, super cool. Super cool. Kevin Boots saying, thank you very much for everything, Sir Gerard. Kevin, we were very, very sorry to have missed you there, but thank you so much for making the responsible, health-conscious decision. We look forward to seeing you there next year. Visionary saying, have the four horsemen designated which of the four horsemen corresponds with who, like Eric is Poxxus, Cornboy Aerothere. I've never heard them mention that. I've never heard them mention that them individually are any of the horsemen. So I don't know that. I don't know if that's something that they've actually put into this. Yeah, Greg saying, I'm shocked how many amazing customs were at the show. I'm going through pictures and seeing new figures. Yeah, that is one of my regrets. I did that live stream from around the show, and that gave me an opportunity to see stuff, but not really see it because I was performing. I was on camera. I was interviewing. I was trying to be entertaining. I didn't have a chance to just sit there and just like legit geek out. For any of the exhibitors watching, I will certainly reach out to you once we have plans for next year. But one thing I can tell you is it will be a 2-day show with a Friday night setup. So we will have time to set up our areas at a more leisurely pace and then be able to actually browse each other's tables and exhibits without fear of leaving our own. That'll be super cool. Nate Strong saying, can't miss event for sure. Nate, it was super cool hanging out with you all weekend. He was with the podcasting, the My Wife Is Gonna Kill Me crew. That was a great group to be around all weekend. Love that. Yeah, everyone calling Jacob the Squire. Let's see. Yeah, says, I know I cannot say, but I would love a Red Star wave with Sir Gerard. Yeah, you and me both. You had me at Red Star. Yeah, 2 days for the next LegionsCon, Paul. It's going to allow us to do so much more. And you know what? I will tell you this. The other thing that's going to be exciting next year is it's going to be at a hotel. So as opposed to being this year's LegionsCon it was called the Wayne PAL. PAL stands for Police Athletic League. It's like a giant gymnasium. Cool place. Very, very cool venue. But it wasn't a hotel. Our hotel was close, but our goal next year, and the place that we're looking at, is legitimately in a hotel. So you will be able to stay in the venue that the show is happening. If you come to the show in the morning and you want to, say you come to the show in the morning and you do what you want to do and you're like, you know what, I want to do the panel discussions later, but I got a few hours to kill. You can go back to your room to freshen up or take a nap. There'll be stuff around there within walking distance to do. So I think that from a venue standpoint, it will allow a lot more flexibility. And being a 2-day show, we believe that people will really hit it hard on Saturday. And then Sunday, even if they leave a little bit early, we'll be able to really get a lot more quality time as a group together. Awesome. So I'm getting ready to wrap it up. So Simon saying DesignerCon was this weekend on the West Coast. It would be awesome to see a blend of these two in a con. So Simon, George Gaspar is a big supporter of DesignerCon. And that's one of the reasons that we started doing the Independent Toy Creator Showcase. That's why we want to build that in, because DesignerCon is so much more than toys, obviously, pins and shirts and art and everything like that. we don't want LegionsCon to be that. Like, we're not trying to, we're about toys. We're about Legions first and foremost, but expanding to independent toy creators, that same kind of vibe they have at DCon is what we're trying to build at LegionsCon. And if this past weekend is any indication, we're definitely well on our way. Okay, let's see. Wow, I'm reading comments that are clearly about things I said like 30 minutes ago. So I realize I'm way behind. Yes, Simon's saying, holy crap, Immortal Collections head and bodies were incredible. Literally, they were generous enough to hand me some of those Oni heads, and they're in my back room, and I'm still digging out from LegionsCon and things I need to do. I cannot wait to get some paint on those things. Those guys, oof, whole family too. That's the other thing that I'll say. Two things. A lot of people, a lot of the exhibitors brought their family members, and that was awesome to see. The Strups brought their entire family. The Strups' youngest, their son, bought, like, he legitimately went up to Wolf King Customs table with his own money and bought a spider kit, and then went home and customized it. And Sean's been posting photos of his son posting his first customs, and dude, they're good. Like, I mean, okay, are they, Eric Miller good? Of course not. Shit, my customs aren't. Oh, I swore on Mythic Conversations. My customs aren't painted Eric Miller good. That's not the benchmark we're trying to hit. But his customs, this little kid's customs, were awesome. Absolutely awesome. And seeing that made me so incredibly happy. The fact that that kid came to this show and got this bug, that's awesome. I do apologize to Sean, because if I just created another Mythic Legion collector and customizer in your family, sincerely, sorry, not sorry. But super cool to see that, to see people there with their families. I had multiple people at Intern for a day tell me that they brought a guest. Their plus one was like their wife or girlfriend or something. And they said, hey, they came with me just to support me so I wouldn't be alone. And they thought they were going to be bored, and they loved it. Like, they had so much fun at that event. And the same thing they said about LegionsCon. These people that are not Legions fans were like, this was a ton of fun. You couldn't be in that room. You couldn't see that energy without being excited. Awesome. Wow, so many comments. All of you, thank you so much for the engagement this evening. It is now 9:22. So I'm probably going to call it an evening now. Oh, I got to the end. Thank goodness. Whew. I'm at the end now of the comments. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for the support of LegionsCon, of Mythic Weekend, of GCon, of Four Horsemen Studios. It was an absolutely amazing experience. I cannot not wait to do it again. I'll be back here next week, where maybe I will finally talk about the Poxxus wave, because I just wanted to talk about the weekend itself. I couldn't get into the figures, but we'll do that next week. We'll talk about my impressions of the figures. We'll talk about the new parts that we're getting on those figures, some of my ideas as I was sitting there and looking at them. The wheels were already turning about customs I wanted to do, way those parts could be used. So we'll cover all of that next week on another Mythic Conversation. I can't wait to see you then. Where's my closing music? I'll leave you at that. Have a good night, everyone. Hit up wolfkingcustoms.com. Get that sale before the end of the weekend. Support another Legion shop and LegionsCon artist. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.